is when there's a birth of child in the home, it's not the time to teach, but it's time to learn. Don't we agree to that? When we become mothers, the first thing is that we need to teach the child. And I think it's more of us to learn what the child wants. Don't you think that we are all what our parents have taught us? If I talk about my experience, I've always been bombarded with the things like, you are a hardworking woman, you really need to work hard more on whatever you plan for. So that was the thing that was every time in my mind, that okay Nidhi, whatever you want to work, you need to work hard. Whatever you want to do, you want to work hard. In my 13 years of experience as a child psychologist, I have noticed that whenever there is a problem with a child's behavior, it goes down directly to parenting. I've seen an example where a child who was say 12 years old stopped going to the school for 3 years consecutively. I've done that case where the child just refused to go to school just because she was nervous what would happen to her mother, because the father and the mother had trips with them. So this is what happens. If I even take down mellow down to a smaller example, I've seen a student who was into engineering. The last 2 months he gave up because he thought that he's the only one, and his father was studying out. His father was out of India working, not with him ever, could not give time, and he felt pressurized for whatever he was doing because he was the only man in the family. So why do we all develop these feelings that there is something wrong with me? Because the parents had said something. And why do we believe as children is because we trust them. Whatever parents say that you are not good enough, the child accepts it and ingrains it in his mind that okay, I trust my parent, and if my parent feels that I am not perfect, there is something wrong with me. Let's take it the other way around. When we talk to each other as delegates, don't we consciously think what we're doing? Yes? Don't we think before saying, hi, how are you? But do we do that with our children? We don't. We just talk. We talk as if they are coming through us and not for us. We always believe, this is my child, I can treat him the way I want. So when I'm in a bad mood, I can say anything to him. That, don't talk to me, I'm busy. So if I'm busy, the child feels, okay, Mama is busy with some work and I am not worth enough her attention. Children are developing these negative thoughts in their minds. So what we really need to do is think before talking. And for that, what we need is the conscious mind. And the conscious mind, I believe, will be an interactive session. So you will tell me, as parents, what does the first thing mean? You talk according to the child's stage of life, the stage of development. Tell me. So if your child is small, say 2 years old, how would you talk to the child? Would it be the same way you talk to your teenager? So you have to change according to the stage of the child, right? The second point I believe is whatever the child goes through, whatever the child's behavior is, there is a reason behind it, right? So if the child is saying that I need a toy, right, and howls and shows a very big tantrum, so how would you think that, what would you think the reason could be? Tell me.
Attention.
Attention? Probably he's not getting the correct attention from the parents, right? So you need to understand the reason behind the behavior, right? The next point is, now that the child is howling and crying and showing no interest in whatever you're saying, what do you do next? Is accept the emotions. So when the child is crying, you go to the child, and rather than saying, stop crying, control your emotions. What do we need to do? Acknowledge. Correct. Accept the emotions. Now if we take this example, the child is crying, howling, and if you, rather than saying that you're not supposed to cry, you take the child near you and say, I understand. Let's take up the same example that the child is crying for the toy, right? So you've accepted the emotion that I understand that you want the toy. How would that be? How would that be when friends of us come and say, and I know you're not in a good mood, I'm there for you. The same feeling that the child would get when you say, I understand you need the toy, rather than saying, stop crying for the toy. I understand that you need that toy. What next? Respond, don't react. Now once you've accepted the child, that I know you want the toy, the next time is that you respond. Now how do you respond? Now probably, when I was traveling, there was this parent who talked to me that my son cried and howled at 2 a.m. in the night, saying that I want to go to the garden. Okay, so had it been a common who has not attended a parent coaching center or something, the person would react by giving any number of examples. This is not the right time. There are dogs there. They'll bite you. It's a scary night. Do we need to give these examples? No. What we need to do is respond, do not react. Any answers from your side? How would you react? How would you respond? Okay, he'll say that I want to enjoy. So the correct response would be yes, perfect. We can go in the morning. This is not the right time because sometimes there are rules to be followed. This is night time, beta. You need to be firm. At the same time, be respectful about it. This is not the right time. You need to relax. This is the time to sleep. I am there with you, with the right choice of words. You keep on saying to that child that I'm with you, I'm with your feelings. Because understand, when the child's demand is not accepted, the first thought that comes in our mind is that Mama doesn't love me.
Yes.
She's not good enough. She's a bad mother. I hate you. Right? And at that time, what you need to do is, I understand that you hate me. I understand totally your feeling that you really hate me. I wish I had a magic wand and I could do something for you. But alas, this cannot be done. Because it's night and 2 a.m. is the time to sleep. So the child needs to understand his emotion, feel that he is supposed to control it positively, going through the emotion completely. So he'll cry, maybe for an hour or so, but then he would understand that this is not going to change. Mama is disciplined. So when the mama is disciplined, the child is automatically disciplined. And then the last, I'm there for you. I'd love to talk about a small example. I still remember when my daughter was very upset on something. She cried and I was upset on her that I didn't like this behavior better. I really didn't like it. She cried. And I don't know, probably the parent coach came up in me and the mother thing was beside. And I told her, I understand whatever you're doing better, but I love you. And you won't believe the expression that he gave. Really, Mama? She was like off her tears within a second. And she said, Mama, you really love me? Even with whatever behavior I've done right now? I said, yes, I really love you. Definitely I didn't like the behavior, but you are still my daughter and my beautiful daughter. And you won't believe, within a second, she was on her toes smiling. That made me realize that so many times we hurt the children and they start a thing that mama doesn't love me. That needs to be taken care of. And I think we all are dependent, am I right? On some or the other person in our lives. The children are completely dependent on us. So what we really need to do, I believe, is let the child know that I am there for you. I am there for you, whatever happens. And don't let it be just a word. It should be a feeling that the child, whatever he has done, maybe has stolen something, but then he should know that if he has shared that with you, you will respond and not react. So just to wind up, in short, talk according to the stages of development, respond, do not react, accept the child's emotions, do not react. If you see the photograph, it's clearly shown that the father is reacting, which we usually do when we are upset. So we need to have a little emotional control on ourselves as well. And respond. If you see the body language, that is really important. And if you noticed, another point that I would add on, if you see a small child, maybe 2, 3 or 4, the child looks directly into your eyes. We tend to look at the whole body language. The child looks directly into your eyes. They know what your eyes speak. So they know if you're really there. Use words that support the child thinking. So like if the child comes and says that I'm mad at Susie, I'm very upset on her, you can just say, oh really? Can you tell me exactly what happened? And have some neutral talks. Oh, and trust me, oh, oh really? Works a lot. You need not talk, you need not explain, you need not be a lecturer every time. Let your child know that you're always there. Thank you so much. Happy parenting.
Thank you, Dr. Needy, for that wonderful presentation. Lots of words of wisdom in there. Hi, everyone. My name is Janet Ward, and I'm from the United States, and I am the owner of The Graceful Parent. I am a parent coach, writer, speaker, and teacher. And we have a small group here, so I'd like to kind of get to know you a little bit. Just with a show of hands, how many people have children or grandchildren living in their homes right now? Okay, about half. Okay, that's perfect. And for those of you who don't, what I'm going to say will actually apply to you too. So, the topic of conscious parenting, learning about child development, like Dr. Needy talked about, learning about parenting strategies are all very important in parenting, obviously. And those are the kinds of things that we most think about when we think about coming to talks about parenting. I'm going to take a little bit of a different view on this topic of conscious parenting. And I'm going to talk about you, your process as a mother, as a grandmother, as a woman. A family is an ecosystem or a living system. And I think we all know this intuitively, but let me elaborate a little bit because there's a way that we can think about it that we might not think about too often. Okay, so in a family, as you know, you have individual family members, right? And then you have all the relationships among each and every single family member. And then those individuals and those relationships make up the family system or the family unit as a whole. Okay? Now the health, the well-being of a family as a whole is dependent upon the strength and the health of the individuals within the family and of the relationships within the family. And a family really can only be as strong as its weakest link, as its weakest, or not weakest, I don't like that word, but least healthy individual or least healthy relationship. Okay. In a family, everyone and every relationship affects the entire unit, the entire entity. So, when one individual can uplift themselves in whatever way, then that in turn has ripple effects that uplifts everyone and every other relationship. And there are scientists who have studied what's called living systems, and they know that very small changes make really big, small changes in an individual or in just a little thing make very big changes in the entire entity. So, parenting and your interactions with your children, that's one thing, but what can you as a person do, as a mother, as a woman, as a grandmother, to uplift yourself? It's important in our very busy days, and I believe it doesn't matter what country you're from, everybody's busy. Everybody has lots of responsibilities, especially women. In our busy days, we tend to get sidetracked by all the things we have to do, all the responsibilities, work, family, cooking, groceries, etc., etc., etc. We forget to leave time for ourselves, and we forget to leave time to ground ourselves, to stay centered, to stay balanced, and to connect to a part of us deep inside that normally tends to get ignored. Or you could also say to connect to a part of us that is greater than ourselves. Call it the universe, call it God, call it whatever, belief system you subscribe to. If a person, when a person begins to set time aside every day to connect to the parts deep inside of them or to the greater universe, then they can become more grounded and more centered and be better parents, be better wives, better sisters, better daughters, whatever. That's how these ripple effects can work out. And while you're doing that, while you're uplifting yourself, guess what? You get to feel more peace and more joy and more happiness in your life. So it's a win-win-win all around for everybody. For you as an individual, for your family, for your relationships, and actually it extends out into the community as well. So, everybody's busy, and you're probably thinking there, sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, this woman's telling me to do an hour of meditation a day. Yes, do more. No, I'm not saying that. There are things that you can do without adding anything extra to your day. There's not enough time to go into it now, but have you all heard of visualization and affirmations, meditative thoughts? Okay, gratitude practices. Oh, I love speaking to this group. Okay, you all know about that. Great. Those are the kinds of things that you can add in to make a big difference in your life and in the lives of your families. And you don't have to do anything extra. You don't have to add hours on your day. All you got to do is be a little creative and figure out how you can make it fit into what you're already doing. So, for example, I have 3 children. They're young adults now. When they were younger, I was crazy busy, and one of my children also has a special needs. So, is differently abled. Very, very, very severe case. She required essentially one-on-one oversight or supervision when she was awake. and she had sleeping problems, so it was pretty much 24/7. But anyway, and I heard this advice, oh, start affirmations or start a gratitude practice, and I thought, no way, that's impossible. You can do things like when you are driving a car and you get to a red light, just make a mental note. At every single red light I'm stopped at, I'm going to think of one thing that I'm grateful for. And when you're at the red light, just think of, okay, I'm grateful for, and it can be really small. In times of crisis, in times of great stress, sometimes you can't think of anything big to be grateful for. I mean, truly, that's the reality of I believe all of us at least some of the time. And so think of the small things, you know. I'm grateful for, look around, that bird on the tree over there, whatever. Those types of things will ripple out and become greater and greater and greater. Other things you can do, I don't know your daily routines, you guys do, you're experts on yourselves. Maybe when you walk to the mailbox to get the mail every day, you can do some deep breathing. Whatever, you can think of these things yourselves. The other thing I want to talk about is siblings, brothers and sisters. How many of you have more than one child? Okay, good. In parenting, there is always one child, by definition, who at any given time requires more of your time and energy. That is normal. It might be associated with age, or it might be associated with a situation that is a differently abled kind of a situation. In situations that are chronic, if you find yourself as a parent torn, that you always, notice a pattern where you are almost always giving one child more time and attention because they need it. I mean, these are legitimate needs. They're not to be denied or dismissed, but they need it, they need it, they need it, they need it. And you find yourself not paying as much attention to the other children because the other children are more capable, more able, and you think they can care for themselves more. I just want to say, and this is based off of my personal experience, please watch those patterns and take time for the other children too. Sometimes that may seem to be impossible because your one child might be so needy. However, your other children need you too. They are still just children. I'm speaking from personal experience. My daughter took all of my time and attention. And my boys were good boys, smart boys, and they were older, they were more capable, and they basically were told, you know what, just I was there for them, but not really, not always. And they kind of grew up like that. They're now young adults, and I am seeing the effects of it now since they're young adults. If I had had someone like me standing in front of me 20 years ago and who had told me, you know what, yes, the special needs or the needy child, for whatever reason, is important, and yes, you do need to pay attention to that, but there may be times when it is just as important to let that child go and instead focus on your other children. So I felt compelled to say that. I don't even know if anyone has any differently abled children, but there certainly are so many circumstances of all different variations. So as much as you can, make sure you're paying attention and that the other children also are getting your love and your attention and your emotional support. You're being there for them emotionally, as Dr. Needy said. So those are the two things for today. One, if you take care of yourself and your own spiritual life, your own emotional life, take time for self-care, you will not only uplift yourself, you'll uplift every single person and every single relationship in your family. It sounds too good to be true, but truly it happens. Try it. Start small. Don't overwhelm yourself with one more thing to do.
Or overwhelm the other person.
Yes, exactly. Start small, and you can add as you go, and just kind of experiment. I mean, there's a million different ways to do meditation. There's a million different ways to do affirmations, visualization, guided imagery, gratitude practices. I believe there's no one size fits all. Do what seems best for you, because you're the experts on you and your family, and you know what's best. And then the second thing again is just be aware of the siblings in families. Okay, so thank you. I wish you all the best. Yes. Okay, excuse me.
I like the red light affirmation that you said.
Oh, okay.
Very
Good.
useful.
From heart to heart.
Thank you.
You can see.
Yes, yes, thank you. Yes.
much.
Do we want to open up for questions? I don't know what time it is, but oh, we have time.
I think.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, okay.
We should. Yeah.
We
Well,
have a question now.
thank you, Nidhi and Janet, for giving very different perspectives on both, you know. I mean, one was the psychological aspect of it, and I loved what you said, Janet, look after yourself, and you can definitely look after your children. Well, it's nice to have some soul sisters here. I certainly wish some soul brothers were here, because they definitely form a part of the parenting group. Anyway, parenting, let me tell you, is a complex task, you know, and a lot of people tend to take it for granted. Parenting, what is it? It is. It's facets, it's nuances, it's ifs and buts. It just goes endlessly, and there are questions which are being unanswered. We're all parents, but how many of us are conscious and focused parents? That's the point under discussion here. Everything that comes to you today is my belief and thoughts and my experience. I mean, there's so many themes I could touch upon, but because of the paucity of time, I would like to address this issue through some themes which are very close to my heart. Love. Parental love is the purest form of expression. It is unconditional, it is universal, it's gifted to all living beings. Yet, this universality of the unconditional love makes it very complicated too. How many of us are able to draw a line between love and indulgence? Very few. While the former is extremely important for the emotional well-being and balanced development of our child, the latter can be positively detrimental. A simple example will prove my point. Somewhere around 5 or 6, while we were trying to rush around finishing our groceries on the weekend, my son just stood in front of a toy shop and started yelling that he wants a particular toy. Now, the choices before me were 3. One, just give him a little spank and say, no, you can't get it, as Nidhi said, just come away. Or the second was, let's just buy it, it's a small toy after all, you know. And the third was to bring him out, have a discussion with him, tell him you have 7 such toys. Don't you think we could buy it on another day from another shop? Well, the first would cause disappointment. The second was buying love. It wasn't really love. And third was laying the foundation of a thinking human being at a very, very early stage. And I opted for that. As we grow, and he said, the form of love changes, but stays. Parental love stays. So we have to take different forms of decision. But please, love and not pamper your children, you know. Be very straightforward to point out if you think that they are in the wrong. Motivation. Parental motivation is the strongest tool of development. Strongest tool. All of us, even as senior citizens, look towards our parents for appreciation and motivation. No amount of recognition, accolades, certificates can take the place of parental approval. Well done. A pat on the back. You are great, you know. Every minute the child is looking for his parents' motivation. Please be conscious of this. I remember at a full hall when they're performing, the chief guest has arrived, everybody's there, but they're looking around like this. Are my parents here or not before I start? So do find time, be conscious to attend all important occasions and events in their life. It's very, very important. In fact, what I often suggest to the parents I meet, try to develop intrinsic motivation in your children, because there's going to be a time when you will not be with them. And that's a time when they require self-motivation. Now, how do we do it? There's some simple ways of doing it. One is encourage them to take decisions from a very young age. Ask them, what would you like to wear this evening for this party? Maybe it is not the best dress that the child chooses, but yet you've given a chance to your child to take a decision, you know, and own the responsibility. Otherwise, engage them in decision making. You know, we are looking for another car. Which one do you think, you know, is the best? Get into a discussion. And once the children learn to be involved in decision and do decision making, they also own responsibility. That's very important. And the problem today is, in the rush and this competitive world, parents sometimes mistake motivation for pressurizing, and they put undue pressure on their children. Look, you have the ability, you have to come first, you know, you must top the class, you've come all the way to Mumbai for this music competition, you better be in the finals. And this is all putting undue pressure and leading to all sorts of negative impacts like stress, lack of self-esteem, confidence. We saw that often, you know. I mean, it was all the time literally told to us, you know, no good. I mean, so motivate you must, but pressurize you must not. I mean, it is only a test. How does it matter? I mean, last month in India, the board exams are going on. Whomever I would invite for dinner, no, I can't come, you know, my son is having this exam. I said, not you, your son. So, I said, no, but I have to be sitting on his head, you know. I said, why? You know, it's become very difficult in the university. He must get 90 something. I said, it's only an exam after all. It's not the end of life. I mean, come on, don't put that pressure. Develop the skill in the child so that he or she can learn himself. Don't just go on and on like this. The third thing which I feel which is extremely important is building strong values and ethical sense and principle in your children. It was always important in our times, your times, but today, with the kind of competition and openness and freedom that has come in, it becomes much more important. Because the more free you are, and the more you go into the open world, you face more pitfalls. And to prepare your children for those pitfalls is a conscious parent's job. You have to. Now we all know, because we have children, they hate lecturing. Enough. You've heard enough of this lecture. There's certain universal truths like honesty, truth, care for others, respect for elders, which need to be transferred. Yet we can't tell them every day, look, your grandma is coming, you must do this, you know. You've had enough. So one of the best methods I've seen is set examples. If you lead an honest and truthful life, and if the way Jan looked after her daughter, you know, they see the sacrifice, they see, you know, and they try to emulate their parents. So you do it yourself. Then use your dining time to throw discussions in which they participate. It could be a political event, it could be a social event, and slowly, without knowing, you would have passed a value to them and they wouldn't realize. But you've done it without nagging them. From morning to evening, if you keep telling them, you know, be truthful, be honest, they are really going to get fed up. This is what most mothers who are really busy and don't have quality time end up doing. So find simple methods. You don't need to spend the whole 24 hours with your children. You really don't. But when you spend it with quality. Use an event. I still remember when one of my sons came and said, this is not fair, Ma. He's got higher marks than me, but he was cheating. He had a paper on his lap. I immediately grabbed that opportunity to tell him that it was just a test. How would you feel? How would your conscience feel if you had done it? So let it go. How is it important, you know? He said, yeah, I think you're right, you know. If you cheat for a test, you'll cheat all your life. So we must in different ways, and there are ways and ways, but we should try to spend time. One very simple method is encourage them to bond with their grandparents. Now these days what I'm seeing is girls becoming a little anti, you know, the parents-in-law. Okay, you be anti, but still encourage the children to bond with their grandparents. They automatically learn to care. And if they care for their grandparents, they're going to care for you. You know, and through them they learn a lot of values are passed on to them. So don't be allergic to the fact that, no, she'll spoil them. No, that's a different kind of love they're getting, you know. The last but not the least I want to touch upon is minimize your children's stress. Oh my God, it's becoming such a major problem today. You know, we feel happy-go-lucky. These kids have no tension, you know. But even a small child has stress.
How do you minimize it, or can you only help them to cope with it? Is it possible? You don't want to add to it, right?
You don't want to add to it. You're absolutely correct. You know, the tensions will be there. If you're born in this world, you better learn to face tensions, okay? And stress. All right, but as you just said, you must try and teach them. Now today, because of this high competition, heightened ambitions, you know, I mean, initially it was okay if you took a career, but today you must take this career in this profession. In India, there's this IIT institutes where children are sending their parents are sending their children for coaching when they're this young. Start preparing, you know. I mean, all that is adding to stress, you know. You are putting pressure and stressing them out, you know. I mean, they should be allowed to do where their passion takes them. So this is just not right, you know. And heightened, then peer pressure has grown so much. Oh, I can't wear this, you know. Everybody will make fun of me. Build so much confidence in your child that people recognize him for what he has and not what he wears. That's a kind of attitude to tell your children. You shouldn't be bothered about what you're wearing. You know, so-and-so is wearing this branded shoes these days. I can't go to the party with these shoes, you know. So, social media is causing so much pressure on the children because one comment on the Facebook or WhatsApp, you know, goes viral and, you know, it creates a huge amount of problem for these children. The television has all sorts of shows. So, there are endless ways in which they get stressed. And we have every day in the newspaper so many cases of children ending their life, forget about going into depression. Now, the other thing which you have to note to answer your question is the first signals. Lot of parents in the business don't notice that the child is slowly sinking into depression. They don't even realize, oh, he's a kid, he'll manage. I saw when this Indian Institute of Technology exam took place, believe me, it happens on one day in a year in this country. My husband had continuously put pressure on my younger son, who was hugely asthmatic, that you have to go there. Did everything possible. After 2 papers, he got an attack. He couldn't attempt the 3rd paper, couldn't make it. So, huge disappointment that I've let my father down. When I walked in for work, I noticed that the light in his rooms were closed, you know, and I immediately took the signal that it's not all right. So I went to him, had a conversation with him, and told him, son, you know the present, but God knows the future. Maybe He's chalking out another path for you. If you had got into IIT, your dad would have pushed you into IIT. How do you know? You know, so he says he's never forgotten that sentence. He was up again, you know. He said, yeah, I said, in the midst, why don't you give the SAT? SAT. So he got full marks in SAT. SAT can be given several times. You know, the first time he gave, he got full marks, and he went off to the US. So the point is, he did his undergrad, his MBA and he's doing wonderfully well. So you have to pick up signals. This is what I'm finding missing in a lot of parents. Half the time they don't know what their children are doing. I was working in the British School in New Delhi, which had this small cohort of very rich parents. And one of their sons got involved in an accident at night, and then also drunken driving. And when we called them up, they said, no, he's sitting at home. He's sleeping in the room at home. I mean, they're not even aware. So this is what, love, don't indulge, motivate, don't pressurize, build values, minimize stress, and most probably you will give the society a happy, balanced individual who's really useful. Thank you so much for listening to you. And all my beliefs.
What she said about should invite values and skills and things like that to be out of order. That's my topic for tomorrow. That's in a very concrete and structured way,
So,
on daily basis.
yes.
How they can imbibe these life
When are you
skills.
talking?
I'm talking at 1 o'clock. The topic is sowing the seed and nurturing the spirit.
Very nice.
So
That's
this is
exactly.
when you're talking about this. So I,
Thank
thought
you
that
so much.
I
Yes.
have a friend who's sick. I apologise, I have to leave. This is really good, but I have to help her with her suitcase.
Yeah.
Thank you
You
so
are leaving.
much.
Thank you so
No,
much.
I'm not leaving.
Tomorrow 1 o'clock. We are going
Please
to
take care of
extension
our-
of this.
Blessings.
All of you, even if it's a small group, it was such a great
Thank you, everybody.
Also,
Shows-
like-minded.
Okay. Let's have a cake together. Let's have a cake together.
You have to give structure. Inviting children to invite values, you have to give structure. It has to be concrete, not abstract.
Everybody. Great.
It should be awarded first.
Okay.
Yes.
Acha, I want you to find out only the speak one.